Okay, folks, we're live.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to a special meeting of the City Council. Why don't we get going, Dave?
Okay, good evening, and welcome to a special meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach held Wednesday, March 10th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. We'll have a roll call. Councilmember Delury,
Present.
Councilmember Mandel is absent. Councilmember Treston,
Here.
Vice President McGinnis,
Present.
President Bendo.
Present.
Let the record indicate the presence of City Manager Donna Gaden and Deputy Corporation Counsel Richard Barrios. We'll have a salute to the flag.
And Councilman Delory, you got a flag behind you. Why don't you lead us?
Certainly. Thank you. And hand over heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Mike. So I just want to start off by saying for some people that may not have heard, we lost a Long Beach icon recently. Bob Carroll passed away. And for those of you that may not know who Bob was a longtime city employee, 42 years, but for 30 years, he was the superintendent of Parks and Recreation. And we owe pretty much all of our recreation programs and facilities that we have to Bob. He's the one who got some grant money and got the ice ring built and other facilities. He came up with the ideas for the concerts on the beach and many of the festivals the city had. He made Long Beach the recreational hub that it is. And in addition to that, he was very active in the community through the Lions Club and other charitable organizations. He mentored countless people in this city. You know, always willing to reach into his pocket to help people. And Councilman Delory had him as a teacher back in the 6th grade, which tells you what a fixture he was here. So I just wanted to acknowledge Bob's passing because he was truly a Long Beach icon and deserves to be recognized. And some of you may know that a couple of years ago we renamed the recreational complex the Robert Carroll Recreation Complex. So we even named the complex after him. So sad passing for a good man. So with that, I guess why don't we move on to the agenda?
Okay. Our first and only item is a resolution authorizing the adoption of a police reform plan pursuant to New York State Executive Order 203 for the City of Long Beach.
Okay, and Ron, are you going to talk about that?
Sure. So as everyone is aware who's on from the city council, but as many people in the public are aware, the governor passed Executive Order 203 in I guess that was June of 2020. And that was we created this in response to the death of George Floyd in Minnesota. The purpose of the executive order was to create changes in local law enforcement so that their policies and strategies were to be now focused on mitigating police-involved deaths and racially biased law enforcement. So in regard to all of that, and a large component of that is also increasing our partnership with the community and also in building trust-based relationships with the community. So the plan and the executive order calls for a review of our policing policies. It's obviously to mitigate the potential as best as we possibly can for police involved deaths and racially biased law enforcement actions. And the plan is to be developed with interested parties and stakeholders from within the community. The plan is supposed to be ratified by the local government, in this case, the city council, and it's to be submitted to the executive director of the New York State budget. The reason that they have it submitted to the executive director of the budget is because if you do not get the plan in on time, you lose all of your state funding, whether or not it's related to police department or law enforcement. So that is the premise of this. Dave put up a PowerPoint presentation that I prepared, and I believe tonight we're pretty much opening this for discussion. I could do this PowerPoint if the council pleases tonight, and then review it again if you choose not to take action tonight at a further meeting, depending on how you want to handle that. You want to?
Well, Dave teased people, so I guess we should at this point.
Yes,
So Dave, why don't you move this slide, 2 slides up? No, the next one. So our police reform was established, or actually was informed, if you will, by a board that it was called the Commissioners Board on Police Reform. And the people on this page were the members of that board, and met numerous times, well, more than a dozen times from December forward, with regard to police reform. They were a very nice cross-section of our community, from the Latino Civic Association. We had Father Brian Barr, you had Helen Dorado, you had Rabbi Elijah Fink from Temple Zion, Dan Grusemeyer, the Nassau County District Attorney, Henry Hall for the North Park Crisis Prevention and Post-Intervention Team, Rabbi Baruch Kleinman from Temple Zion. You had Joe Lee, who is an attorney here in Long Beach and a resident. You had John McNally, who works, as everybody knows, with the administration. You had Elder Mark Moses from the New Life Church of Christ, Disciples of Christ, Long Beach Civil Service Commission as well. Rodney Nellums, a community member, Jackie Odom for the North Park Crisis and Post-Intervention Team, Danielle Robinson, another one of our serving district attorneys down here, and Marcus Tinker from the North Park Crisis Prevention and Post-Intervention Team. So this team worked extremely hard with throughout the entire process, and informed a lot of the decisions that we made, gave a lot of tremendous input into the plan. And myself, Rich DePalmer, Bill Dodge, worked very, very hard on this, as well as all of the supervisors in the police department. This plan and its rough draft was given to the members of the department and the supervisory members of the department, so that they would have the opportunity to see it, to give input back to it, and to also, in case we were missing something, that the police department was actually doing as well. So we think it actually does a great job. The board members, as well as the members of the department, we think it does a fantastic job to actually inform not only the department on how it needs to move forward, but how to partner with and serve the community. This is a tailored plan for the city of Long Beach, put together by the people who live here, who know this community and know the things that this community faces. They know the shortcomings of the department, of the city. They know its strengths, and we looked at ways to really build upon our strengths, as well as to increase the level of competency in our weaknesses. So Dave, if you go on to the next slide. So the information that was put out by the governor calls for policy review. And when we go through our policies and procedures, the police department has a lot of rules and regulations that it uses to govern the way we manage the police department as well as how we are out into the public. But these policies that you see up on the screen are directly related to the incidents that that George Floyd basically precipitated, and the unrest that the country experienced throughout much of the beginning of 2020, actually probably the first 2/3 of 2020, and things started to calm down a little bit as these situations were addressed. So we developed and revamped our use of force policy to make it more responsive to the needs of the city. There was never a mental aided policy. So when you say a mental aided, it's somebody who is experiencing some sort of emotional or mental crisis at the time. They may or may not have long-term disability. That's not what it's for. It's for people who are experiencing difficulties at the moment, who need specialized consideration by the first responders, because the police department is the entity that winds up responding to these situations up front and is to provide care and safety to them. And we take these people to for medical help when they are a danger to themselves or a danger to other people. We're obligated to do that through the mental health law, and a lot of that needed to be codified into a policy and a procedure for us to deal with. So that's what this policy did. The crowd control policy. The city of Long Beach never had a crowd control policy, and it's not. Then and in the policy we came up with different categories of what we defined as crowds, whether they were cooperative or uncooperative, lawful assemblies or unlawful assemblies, and how they are to be dealt with. And the very last resource or the very last tactic that we would use in these situations would be something along the lines of, the traditional forming a line or a wedge, as the police department would do it. And you take out your batons, you put on your helmets, and you go charging into the crowd. Those days are the days that we try to avoid at all costs in this policy. And it basically outlines how the police department is going to be more responsive, establish communication with organizers, and become cooperating with them to try and give them their First Amendment rights of speech and free speech, while preserving the peace for the people who do not want to be affected by these particular demonstrations, and trying to balance along those lines. Vehicle pursuit policy was also reviewed for this as well, that we, call off vehicle pursuits for certain crimes where the danger to the public is more than the danger of the person getting away. And we try to look for alternative means of identifying people throughout, instead of chasing them at high speeds throughout the city or the county. Civilian complaint policy, brand new policy that I developed here and brought in. And, we use some IACP modeling as well as the county's policy modeling, and brought in a procedure that every single complaint, and this is reviewed in the rest of my slides, but every single complaint must be taken. The only complaints we don't take are those that really aren't complaints. So what does that mean? A non-complaint would be somebody who comes to the desk and says, I want to complain about this officer who gave me a ticket. Okay, what's the complaint? He gave me a ticket. Well, that's not a civilian complaint about the officer doing anything wrong. That's what you work out in court. But if he says the officer was rude to me when he gave me the ticket, well, that's a complaint. And we take that. And not only do we take it, not only is the desk officer or supervisor must take it, an officer must refer that person to a supervisor. It is to be taken. It goes into our records management system. It gets put on a new form called the Long Beach Police Department 360, which is a civilian complaint investigation report. That then gets assigned by the supervisor, goes to the executive officer and myself for assignment for investigation. It goes into a log so that forevermore we will be able to refer back to that complaint and know that it existed. So that's a big, big change for the way the city does things. The duty to intercede. I give you the exact language a little bit later on, but every officer now by policy has the duty to intercede if they observe an officer using what they estimate to be unreasonable force. And if they can intervene and stop that from happening, they ought to do it. And if they did not have that opportunity, they must report it to a supervisor. So that is now codified in our policy. A hate crime policy. There's no hate crime policy here in Long Beach, and that's under development right now. So hate crimes would be, for instance, an anti-Semitic incident or a crime that's directed toward a particular race or ethnicity within the city. We are developing a policy to ensure that those cases are handled with the utmost of sensitivity. Now, next slide, Dave. So on this slide, we talk about recruitment. Recruitment was a major area of focus for the board and for members of the community that have given feedback as well. They want to ensure that the Long Beach Police Department and the city of Long Beach are doing everything that they can to attract those people that reflect Long Beach, minorities, women, we have done a great job in the last few years of hiring more women on the police department, but we still only have 12%. Now that's a pretty decent percentage. I believe, I think Nassau County is running at about 5 or 6% of their entire department, but we are looking at, I think that's right. I could be mistaken there, but I know we're up to 12. For many years, they had 1 or 2. And I know that we're looking at hiring more women in the future and more persons of color so that we are more reflective of the community that we are here providing our services to. We want to distribute. How we're going to do that, we're going to talk to our area, not only within the city, we're going to focus within the city, but around the county and the region, getting into our houses of worship, getting into our schools and parochial schools, making sure that our pamphlets and our announcements are up on Facebook and Instagram and cross-referencing those, and ensuring that anybody can walk into police headquarters and get an application to take our next exam. Partnering with the Nassau County Police Department, their recruitment center, establishing a law enforcement exploring post as well here to get our youth involved in learning everything there is to learn about law enforcement and attract them at an early age into the law enforcement profession, and trying to really increase that profile out into the city. And we're also going to be working with Nassau County with their mentoring program. Nassau County has many fraternal organizations that they have a lot of membership to, whether it be the Italian or the American or the Guardians or the Golds or societies or the Steuben. And those members of those organizations have agreed to mentor people who are having a difficult time getting through the process, to mentor them so that they're successful in their application process and getting to the point where they can be selected for the job. So that was a major area of focus for ours. Next slide, Dave. We also promote off of civil service examination. That's the only way you can get into the Long Beach Police Department. There's no, my friend Johnny wants to get hired. So everything that we do here in Long Beach is done through the Long Beach Civil Service Commission. New York State provides our examination to us. They take the test, they get put it in bands, and the people who get qualified, we call them within the bands, and we investigate people that make it in the bands. Our goal is to ensure that more people that are underrepresented in our department are more represented in the bands that we get to. Because we are a small law enforcement agency, we don't normally get to the 70s or the 80s in our exam. We're usually between 90 and 100 is where you're going to be considered, and even more so between 95 and 100 scores are what's considered for the city of Long Beach. So a lot of people consider that to be a benefit to being a small organization, but it does limit our selection pool. So we are trying to support those people who are looking to take our exam into doing better on the test. We're also looking to focus on professional development opportunities for our officers themselves. We want to ensure that they are given not only their firearms training every year, but getting exposed to our in-service training that Nassau County has put together, and also we have a thing called Traincaster here in the city of Long Beach, which is right in their cars while officers are not assigned to other calls for service. They can go through a 15-minute training session where they can watch a video, and learn specific tools and new methods on how to do their jobs more proficiently and professionally. So we're looking to start to developing that and the use of that more. We also want to recognize our officers for doing great work. So we are reestablishing a police officer of the quarter here, and we're also going to establish a civilian member of the quarter. Our Chamber of Commerce used to give us money for that many, many years ago. So we're looking to reestablish a partner in the community to award, after an evaluation, an officer who does the most outstanding work per quarter here in Long Beach, as well as our civilian members. Because, ladies and gentlemen, there's not a thing that's going to happen in this department if every one of our civilians walk out the door. They are absolutely critical to our performance, and we need to recognize them as well. Next slide, Dave. Our training now is our in-service training and professional development, like I talked about before. Some of the things that are focused on there are procedural justice. So procedural justice is exactly what the words say. In the procedure or the process of informing justice, how do we ensure that the public, one, has a fair process, it's transparent, and that we provide them opportunities to have a voice? We shouldn't be deciding what we're going to do until we hear out both parties or the parties involved. And we also need to ensure that our decisions are being made in the most impartial way possible. Implicit bias training. So, and racial justice in policing. So implicit bias is, and I've spoken to it about in front of the council before, it is the biases that we have that we don't even recognize are internal to ourselves. And the studies that show, and Harvard University was the cutting ground on this, studies show, and you can take their implicit bias test yourself. If you just go on, you Google Harvard University implicit bias, and you can take a little test and learn about your own biases. But we can't prevent these things, it turns out, but we can mitigate what their influence is on our decision-making process by educating us. Hey, am I making this decision because it's right, or because someplace inside of me it felt right first? And feeling right first is not always the correct action to take, is what implicit bias trains us to do. Hate crime training, the new department policies in development, and when that comes out, we will be training our officers in that. De-escalation involves active listening, being impartial, learning new verbal tactics to try and de-escalate situations, permitting officers to tactically reposition themselves. New York State has a no retreat law for police officers. We never, by law, have to back down. But sometimes we call it tactical repositioning. That's a much better way to go than pushing the fight. Even though we're legally allowed to do something, doesn't mean that we should do it or that we have to do it. So teaching officers those techniques and exposing them to the opportunity that if you have somebody with a knife and they're experiencing one of those mental crises again, we should have the opportunity and the understanding that we can position ourselves and maneuver ourselves away from this person in a safe manner, and hopefully not have to use a deadly force against somebody because they get too close to us and we have to protect ourselves, or they get too close to somebody else and we have to protect them. I already talked about mental health, problem-oriented hotspot policing. So included in this plan is a new COPS unit, which is 2 police officers assigned to do community outreach. They're assigned to work with to help develop the Explorer program. They're designed to focus on persistent problems within our neighborhoods to come up with resolutions to reduce the numbers of calls for service that we're getting, so that officers have more time to build relationships and provide the level of service in our communities that the community is demanding. So that's something that we're going to be doing. The duty to intercede, like I spoke about in the last slide, is exactly that. Dave, can you go to the next slide? So this particular graphic shows the decision-making model that the recruits, our police officers that go through the Nassau County Police Department, are involved in getting. It teaches them a process of, so you should look at this as a wheel, right? And you can be at any point in this particular decision-making model, and you kind of spin the wheel. So if you gather information and intelligence, that's the first thing that you do when you receive a call for service. From there, you assess the threat and you develop a strategy in your mind. What do I have to do? Where do I have to go? The next thing you do is you consider the policy and the legal powers that you have. From there, you identify your options and contingencies. Gee, based on the law, based on what the strategy I have, what can I actually do? And then you do something. That's the next step. If it doesn't work, you could immediately, okay, so the situation changes. You can wind up back at assessing the threat again because, oh, the person dropped the knife. Situations are very fluid. This is very similar. It's difficult to do when you're first exposed to it, but no more difficult than driving a car. The very first time we got behind the wheel of a car, we didn't know what we were doing. You know, you pulled away from the curb, all bouncing and stuff. You hit the brakes. You probably did one of these things in the car with everybody in the car. But today, you don't even think about driving the car when you're driving it. You could be talking on your Bluetooth. You could be listening to music. You could be talking to somebody next to you. And if you're not paying attention, you could wind up at your destination, or you go on autopilot and wind up home by mistake when you were supposed to pick up milk at the store because you went on autopilot. That's very much the same as the way this decision-making model gets ingrained in our officers. Next slide, Dave. So with regard to use of force, and these things, by the way, most of what we're talking about here is going to be put up on our department website so that the public will have the ability to see statistically what we are actually doing and when we are doing it. Not quite in real time, but certainly every month it will be updated to the point where you'll be able to get a very good feel as to what we're doing. So every use of force that we use, we put our hands on somebody, that's a use of force report, and that must be given to us in the form of our 258 report, and then that gets tracked by the department. All uses of force are evaluated for the tactics and potential training needs. So we look at the types of use of forces that we're getting, and we're saying, hey, are our cops doing what they should be doing? And if they are, because of the training, do we want to adjust the training so they do something different? Because we will do what we're trained to do. The policy is way more rigorous than what's required by law. The Attorney General's office, as part of all of these changes, has the right to review any use of force by any officer now. And then, as I said, it's all going to be put up on our website. The use of deadly force, well, that's an entirely different thing. And if we wind up using deadly force, we'll probably call in, I believe we're going to call in. No, let me say that more definitively. We use deadly force on somebody and somebody gets shot. We're going to call in the Nassau County use of force team to help us evaluate that. So there's an independent look on what we did instead of just the Long Beach Police Department looking at themselves, so that we can go above reproach, if you will. The Attorney General's office, by the way, automatically gets notified of these things, and their Office of Special Investigations has the right to investigate any one of these. And they probably will. If somebody dies in one of these situations, God forbid, you can count on the Attorney General taking the investigation. That's the way it's going to go. I already spoke about civilian complaints, so I won't waste any more time on that. If you can go to the next slide, Dave. So community outreach initiatives. These are the things that were specifically put into the plan to reach out into our community. And there's more than just here, but they're designed to reach out into the community and to help build more of a trust-based and solid, resilient relationship with our community so that there's more understanding and less misunderstanding, if you will. So you have your Commissioner's Young Adult Council, which is going to have at least 6 kids on it between 16 and 23 from all across the Long Beach community. And the focus of this group is going to be on community engagement, community service, and building better police community relationships. The Youth Police Initiative. So this is going to work with our community, our police officers kind of come together, and they're going to work with our at-risk kids to reduce the misunderstandings on both sides, police officer and the youth, and to repair relationship and reestablish that trust between the youth and the police, and also try to teach conflict resolution so that kids aren't always resulting to violence. The Police Youth Academy. So that's something that Nassau County does that I don't believe Long Beach has ever done before, but many of the school districts that have populations of at-risk kids, they send them to the police academy on a Saturday. They get exposed to all the different aspects of police work, and it's a very non-threatening, positive relationship building type of engagement. You have the Citizens Police Academy, where citizens then go to the Nassau County Police Department. They go through an 11-week program on, I believe it's either Tuesdays or Thursday nights, once a month. They go through the once a week. They go through the process. They get exposed to all of the things and the considerations that police officers get trained for, and get to have interactions with the instructors in the police academy, as well as the commanding officers of many of the units. And then as an addendum to this, we plan on, after you graduate from that, holding specific days with the people who attend this for the Long Beach Police Department to educate them on the specific things that we do down here in Long Beach. So they see what our officers are trained as and exposed to, as well as how we do business in Long Beach. Now, the establishment of the COPS unit, which is the Community-Oriented Policing and Problem-Solving Unit. That's to establish, that unit is to have those officers, like I explained earlier, specifically in our community, dedicated to community outreach and helping the community solve the problems that are most persistent in Long Beach. Law Enforcement Exploring Post I spoke about already. The Commissioners Community Council is going to be a council that we spread out across the city, that come in and meet probably quarterly with the Commissioner of Police and the upper executive, so that we could sit down, talk about the issues that they see and feel out in the community, help give us feedback on how we're doing, and try and work to build better relationships and be more responsive to the issues that the community is seeing and the community is experiencing, and we get to hear it firsthand. The Great Training Program is a program that we do with our third graders here in Long Beach. It started a number of years ago, and it's an anti-bullying and anti-gang program. It's called Gang Resistance Education and Training is what GREAT stands for. It's a terrific program. I led it in Nassau County. Great results. And we're also going to work with the Nassau County Police Department to try and see if we can stand up a PAL involvement down here in Long Beach. In the beginning, if the number of students are low, we're going to try and figure out a way to transport the kids to the programs that take place, or at least invite them to the programs that the county is actually using, because there are 55,000 kids across Nassau County that go to PAL activities every year. So it's a very successful program for the county. And I think that Long Beach needs to at least be educated enough to know that it's important that they have the ability to take advantage of these programs. Next slide, Dave. So this is the area where I talked about duty to intercede. So this is what our policy basically says, that any officer present or observing another officer using force that he or she reasonably believes to be clearly beyond that which is objectively reasonable under the circumstances shall intercede to prevent the use of unreasonable force, if and when the officer has a realistic opportunity to prevent harm. So if the officer is seeing it from across the street and it stops and he doesn't have the opportunity, we don't hold them responsible for not getting in there in time, but they absolutely have to report this. And an officer who observes another officer use force that exceeds the degree of force as described above shall promptly report these observations to a supervisor, and they will be held accountable to this as well. Dave, next slide. So in conclusion, I mean, I don't think I have to read it. I think I was pretty clear as to what our focus was. This is a very brief summary of a 58 page document that's been up on our website for well over a week. It will be up a little bit longer, and the council, I open it up to any questions that you may have with regard to anything in the document that I can help give some clarity to.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ron.
Sure.
So I guess before I open it up for questions to the council, it's just worth noting that after the draft report was put up, we, through Senator Kaminsky's office, were able to identify a potential funding opportunity that may allow us to get body cameras for some or potentially all of our offices and the associated equipment. So we're updating that section of the report to reflect that recent development. So with that, I guess I'll open it to any questions for the commissioner from the council. Okay, going once, going twice. Oh, okay.
I don't have any specific questions because I've read the Executive Order 203. I just want to take an opportunity to thank Denise Ford for allowing me to attend the legislative meetings that were held through the Nassau County Police Department on their reform reports. And I know that she's a participant today, so maybe she will be able to express more. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you to her for allowing me to attend those meetings. It was very eye-opening, and I want to appreciate everyone's work on this document. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the council? All right, seeing none, why don't we open it up to the public? So who do we have, Dave? Dave, you muted.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
I was stuck in another window. Yes. So first up, we'll have Roy Lester. Before that, just folks, if anybody who does want to speak, use the raise your hand function, and we will call on you in the order that that it comes up on the screen here. A reminder, you get 3 minutes, and I will, at the end of your 3 minutes, you'll hear the alarm ringing in the background. When you hear that, then you know your 3 minutes is up. So Roy, we're going to start with you. Go ahead, Roy.
Lucky me. Ron, I think you did a great job on this. To be honest, I've lived here my whole life and I've never really had a problem with Long Beach Police. So I just, you're preaching to the choir here. This is great stuff. But I do have a couple of questions. The data that you're talking about, which is really a good thing because it lets people know everything, is that on the website? Because I know you mentioned that it's there on page 58. You say it's on lbpd.com, but I could not find it. Is it already up there?
So the actual website, Roy, is being developed as we speak.
Oh, okay, all right.
So it's not up yet.
All right, so I'm patient. Okay, number two, and this is one that caused the problem, and this was before you came here. When you're talking about the crowd control, we had a problem this summer with a bunch of kids, and because of it, they came down to the beach. Because we could not control them, we ended up shutting the beach down and the boardwalk. There were just too many people. Would this crowd control, I mean, it's basically talking about marches and stuff like that. How would you be able to handle that when it overwhelms our regular police force?
So, Roy, it completely depends on the situation and as it takes place. I mean,
take the one that we had.
So that particular one was a pop-up type of thing where there was really no information that it was supposed to happen and be as large as it was. The first one that happened, not the second one. I think I had more of a leeway on the second one. But so, I mean, I would call in county resources to help out. Of course, if it becomes the point where we think that the public danger might be affected, the public safety might be affected, we would shut the beach down if it was necessary to do so. If you had an unruly crowd, we're not going to let people try to walk through an unruly crowd and access the beach if there's potential for them to get hurt or if crimes are taking place. Our goal would be to get a hold of the people who are actually organizing these things. We establish a dialogue with them. We let them kind of know the ground rules of what's going to be tolerated, what's not tolerated. And if we think that there's going to be a lot more than we can handle, we'll call for our brothers and sisters in the Nassau County Police Department and around to come down, assist us with the control and to be able to police within the manner in which that we would like them to police under our rules. You know, and no one gets hurt. We'll tell you right now, the ground rules are simple here. No destruction of property and no hurting of people. If you can manage, if you can manage to do that, your free speech is going to be respected here. But we're not going to let you damage people's property and run amok on the city. It's just not the way America should be run, in my opinion.
No, I'm talking about, this had nothing to do with free speech. This had to do with people wanting to hang out on the beach, a tremendous number of them. And, a lot of the citizens suffered because they lost their beach for a while after that. And, I really feel confident, Ron, that it wouldn't happen again with you. But I was just wondering.
I hope so, Roy, but the fact that you said that makes me nervous. Don't say that.
Oh, stop it. Okay, thank you, Ron. Great job.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, who's next, Dave?
Okay, William. Hold on one second. Just having a window problem. William, how do you pronounce that?
Depper.
Depper. Okay. Go ahead, sir.
All right,
Yeah.
welcome.
Hi, Commissioner Walsh, will you be having a senior adult council? And also, will body cams only be on police officers or also on detectives as well?
So as far as the senior council, there's senior members who would be invited and have been, like even on our police reform board, there were several senior members on that board. As a specific council, if there was a need for it, I would be open to that as something that we could open up to if there was enough interest. But certainly they would be invited to participate on our Commissioners Community Council. As far as body cameras go, the body camera issue is something that requires careful planning and integration to ensure that we're not violating people's rights either. So what does that mean? When you have a body camera on you, everything that happens is on that camera. So we have to be very cautious that what's caught on camera is legally allowed to be given to whoever's requesting, whether it be a FOIL request or to the courts, because not everything is allowed. If there was a call at your home, you're certainly not going to want your video showing up on something that has nothing to do with you. So there's a lot of careful preparation and planning that needs to be done that we're looking at as we speak. As far as detectives go, usually it is the uniform force that wears a body camera, but that's something that we could consider as well. But detectives usually are not the first responder. They're the person who do follow-up investigations in controlled environments. But of course, if they were going out to make an arrest on somebody, they would be wearing a body camera.
Okay, and then also, if one police officer is being excessive or foul language and the other officer doesn't report it and people are recording, if that's being brought in afterwards, are you going to reprimand the officer even worse?
That's mandated as far as I'm concerned. Mr. Depler, that's absolutely mandated. If we have information that any one of our officers violated policy or procedure or the law, they will be disciplined, and if they violated the law, they will be answering for that as well. There is absolutely no way that that's going to be tolerated in this police department.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I had.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the question.
You're welcome.
All right, have a good night. And who's next, Dave?
Next is Leah Tozer.
Okay. Hi, Leah.
Leah, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, guys.
Good evening.
Hi. Hi, Commissioner Walsh. I just want to say that, I feel so safe in our city, and I get to say that to people all the time when they ask all those questions. So I just want to throw that right out there. This question is, first, are you guys voting on this tonight?
No.
Probably not, because the changes we're making to the section about the body cameras will probably require us to table it and to vote on it at the next meeting. And also, we're getting comments now that may need to be incorporated.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that you're not voting on it tonight, because I was wondering why it was called as a special meeting if we're having the city council meeting in 6 days. Why, and it was just announced yesterday, why that would be done with like minimal public input.
Well, there's not minimal public input. That's what we're all doing right now. The reason it was done separately is because we assumed this was going to take some time, and adding it into a full agenda elsewise could make for a very long meeting. So we wanted to make this a standalone since it's an important topic.
Yeah, no, I get that, but again, it was only announced yesterday, so, to, let people know. I mean, I told a bunch of people and nobody seemed to know about it, so that's why I was just asking why that was.
Ron, do you want to explain the whole process?
Sure. So this has been under development, and the community has had members, like was said earlier, the 18 or so people that have been involved. Plus, we've also used the North Park Crisis Prevention and Intervention Team and numerous other avenues to seek input. Not only that, it was announced at several board meetings and put up on the city's website a week ago, Monday. So the entire plan, including all of the policies and procedures, have been up for public comment, and we have been getting public comment back. I'm not sure how that was missed, but I'd be more than happy to, listen to whatever comments, or you can email me if you have something specifically that you wanted us to consider for the plan. This probably will not be approved until next week, and I'm still open to making adjustments to it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks so much, Leah. Thank you very much for coming in tonight.
So Ron, I just want to make clear, this hasn't been, the public has been given several opportunities to comment on this.
Oh,
right?
yeah. And it was, yes.
This is not something that was done just yesterday.
Oh, absolutely not. And I think something that sometimes gets lost too is each and every one of the board members here is elected by the public for this responsibility as well. And the board, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say board, I apologize. The council has had the plan, I think, for about three and a half weeks or so, right? So, I mean, and there's been a lot of feedback coming, and we've been making adjustments as we got them from the council and from the public and from Public Venue, and people who even say things to us when we go to other venues. Gee, that would be really good to include in the plan. That's really important, and we incorporate that in. So anybody who thinks that this is a cookie cutter plan, all you have to do is read it, and you can see it's very, very tailored to everything that the city of Long Beach needs.
And just as a point of clarity, the meeting was noticed on Monday.
And
Okay.
I just want to add, Commissioner, I was impressed by the groups that were reached out to, the Helen Dorado, the Latino, Father Brian, Houses of Worship. So to me, I'm comforted to know that there was great outreach, to the community.
It was really a vast cross-section of the community, which is, exactly the point, one of the objectives of the exercise. So very well executed in a tight time frame, in a new job, just very impressive. And the coordination with the new information that you provide in the plan in terms of integrating with the resources throughout Nassau County and the island is exactly the type of initiatives that this city should be pursuing.
Thank you.
Okay, well, you done, Leah?
Oh, I didn't know if I was muted or not. I just wanted to say, I know Joe Lee was on there and I'm a board member of the chamber and we didn't know about it. So I'm just saying, I get that, sometimes just putting it on Facebook doesn't, do enough, and not everybody that was just in that group told enough people. So, and obviously if it was just done Monday and today is Wednesday, I get it, what you're saying, but I'm just saying it happened pretty fast. And when there's a special meeting, usually it's because of an emergency. So I was just wondering, that's why I'm asking the question.
Okay. All right, well, thanks, Leah. And who's next, Dave?
Next is Jennifer Drum.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Hi,
Jennifer. You
Jennifer.
can unmute.
Yes, hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to take my question. It's a very impressive, comprehensive plan, and I look forward to seeing a lot of this implemented. I'm a longtime resident of Long Beach. I've been here, went to middle school here, and I plan on staying here forever. So whatever could be done to clean up Long Beach from the community standpoint and safety is the utmost importance. As it relates to just a due diligence that went through pricing out and doing cost comparisons regarding the data storage versus our legal fees, was there a cost comparison done to see in putting the expenditure into the body cams would in fact lower the fees that we have been seeing? And second to that point, do we have a total dollar amount of what we have spent over the past 5 years on outside counsel relating to false arrests and or aggressive natures from the police force?
I don't have the information that you're looking for on historical. I've only been here since February 19th officially. So with regard to prior expenditures and stuff like that, I mean, I don't have that information. I don't know if anybody else does.
I can get that information, but could you repeat, you asked for the legal fees for?
So in regards to the legal fees that were spent on false arrest or excessive force cases in particular, and basically what is the cost comparison between the data storage and the legal fees, to see what's our break even, what is our upside, what is our downside.
So I could just inform the question a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, Jennifer.
Sure, by all means.
The comparison there would be almost unfair, because just because an officer is accused doesn't mean that they're guilty. They go through the due process, and the defense of that is going to be an expense, even if they didn't do it. Or what they did was considered legally permissible. So, I mean, they're two different comparisons. I understand what you're trying to get to. How do we come to whether or not it's justified to use? I would say to you, from my perspective, I hope that we come up with the money, because throughout the entire country, these videos 95% of the time fall on the side of protecting the police officer from unfair and unjust accusations. So I am all for body cameras. I totally want to know if my officers did something wrong, number one. And number two, I totally don't want my officers to be held accountable for something that's a he said, she said type of situation. And we now have proof that they didn't do what they're accused of doing.
I agree with you. I think in the long run, it would save us money. And besides money, just the faith and overall community appreciation of what officers do on a day-to-day basis, and just everyone on both sides of the coin will feel safer in the community knowing that officers are doing the right thing. And so I think it's a good tool.
It definitely will boost public confidence. I agree with you.
Commissioner Walsh,
Yes.
From what I've read in terms of Nassau County police officers and body cams, that's a contractual negotiation with them. Wouldn't that be a contractual negotiation for us? i.e., it's not just us saying police officers wear body cameras. It would have to be negotiated.
I believe that is 100% correct. So the city could say yes, and the state could pass a law tomorrow that mandates this, but the
PBA.
collective bargaining process still would need to take place, so that the unions would have their say as to the rules and regulations and how it gets implemented, and whether or not there would even be a consideration for compensation and things like that. All that is subject to negotiation. You are correct.
And if I just may ask, what is the budget for the body cameras?
Well, right now, it's an investigatory project to look into what we would do, and what we haven't even had the vendors come in yet. It's funny though, because was on the phone with Motorola speaking with them today about their product, which is WatchGuard, and they have the probably the most aggressive management software associated to it. But I can tell you this, that the cameras are not the expense. A lot of these companies will give you the camera. What the expense is the software and the licensing of the cameras and the actual management of the video storage. But we're going to need at least one full-time person in the city of Long Beach to manage the video and manage not only how we store it, but when it's required to be given to the district attorney's office, to ensure that everything that we give the district attorney is what's required for discovery, and also isolates out and makes sure that it's not visible, things that are not permissible to be seen. It is a very, very, very complicated process to implement these programs. We're fully in favor of it, but a lot of careful consideration has to go into how it actually is implemented.
So if I just my last question, was there, a bid sheet or an RFP that was verified by the city that we are putting out to numerous vendors to all quote on for apples?
Not yet. That would be the process in the future. Yes.
And would that be obtained? Would we publicly be able to see what that RFP is?
They're public documents when they're put out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
time, and I appreciate everyone's time in the council.
Thank you for the insight. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Jennifer. All right, who's next, Dave?
James Hodge.
Okay, Mr. Hodge.
Hello, how are you? And I just want to say that I wish that this would have been a meeting that was promoted way more, and I wish more people from the community would have been able to have input and not be held to 3 minutes, because this is a very, very important topic that executive orders was back in May. And so it's not on Commissioner Walsh, all of it. But again, I just believe that we should have had way more time to really thoroughly go through all of these different areas. I suggested that the commissioner and the council look at the people's plan and thoroughly look at a lot of the 12 sections that they mentioned and that they thoroughly went through. Police officers, former judges, prosecutors, because there is a lot that has been going on. We've marched in Long Beach and we've been marching all over because there is different treatment. We know that there's different treatment by the way of what happened at the Capitol. And so we know that this is real. We're looking for the city of Long Beach. And I say, how many people from on this board is from that actually live in North Park? Commissioner, can you let me know that? How many people from North Park from this committee actually live in North Park?
I don't know the exact addresses of the people who were on the council. I know that three of the members are very, very involved in the North Park community, and I believe 2 of them live in the North Park community.
All right, no, I'm letting you know, none of them that I know of live in North Park. Maybe.
Well, it depends on your description of North Park and what you're actually calling the actual area. There is a little bit of dispute as to what block it cuts off on and whatever whatever you might
We're
consider.
not talking about.
But certainly very familiar with that area. They are.
Okay, well, my thing is that I just believe that it should be way more involvement. I don't think that it was enough involvement. I think what you're trying to do and get the information out, and I mean, you only had a little bit of time, so I see what you're trying to do. I appreciate you even for coming in the community. We didn't have much interaction from, the last police commissioner in the MLK, so you've been here, more than some, I would say.
On your first day, I believe.
Yeah, the first day you were here, and I appreciate that. I must say that Commissioner Ragona and Ryan, they're super amazing. I thank God for them. They were great police officers. But I do say that, Commissioner, if you could really entertain and look at the people's plan, they have solid information. I know that Long Beach police officers, there are some great and there's some bad everywhere. And we must recognize that some people in Long Beach say, I never had problems with police. That don't mean a lot of others have not. I've always loved police officers. My greatest mentor was one of the police officers who was the president of the MLK board, Sergeant Murkison, the late Sergeant Murkison, and also others. But Officer Walsh, not Officer Walsh, Officer Fowles and Officer Williams, I was personally assaulted by those officers in front of my mother, something that I never thought would happen. And, you know, people can look at the records, they can look at the report, they can look at, sometimes courts may rule in the favor of the police, but that don't mean they did, that they didn't do what they were, I guess the complaint was against them. Those officers assaulted me, hit me in the face in front of my mother. Is one of the scariest days of my life. I never thought it would happen to me, being on a former auxiliary police officer, working with the police department as an animal warden, and always having a love for the police department. But
James,
again, we must
James,
address,
sorry to interrupt. That's your 3 minutes. Please wrap it up in a sentence or two.
okay, we must have more meetings to address these serious issues. So again, thank you for this meeting, but I think we should have had more time to be able to speak and like flush these ideas out, not just 3 minutes on this very, very important, you know, situation that we're going to vote on. And I don't think we can vote on it tonight because you guys are still working on some of these plans currently.
Raj, this is Liz. We have established that we will not be voting on this tonight.
Yes.
We are currently listening to the community. As you know, I mentioned to you that I have read the People's Report, all 311 pages, and I have highlighted the one-page, the one-pagers I have in a packet to give to my fellow council people. I was just waiting to listen to Emily, the social worker that was part of the People's Plan today, to get some more information. This is a fluid, and please, Commissioner, correct me if I'm incorrect. This is a fluid document. It is going to be evaluated at least twice a year. Things will be, this is brand new. This is something that we should be embracing, that we are actually looking at change.
I'd just like to say this, that you're 100% correct, Councilwoman Treston. This is a living document. What we are submitting to the state is our plan. And the people of this community, including yourself, Mr. Hodge, will have input into the outcomes that we are resolving and resulting in. So if there is something that is taking place that you're seeing, or more interest or more effort that you would like to see take place because you're not seeing it, that is where the communication and the bonding and the relationship between the police department and the MLK Center and you, Mr. James Hodge, as a resident of the city of Long Beach, have the opportunity to speak to us as well as our officers. And just let me finish this one piece. We've initiated many programs in the last couple of weeks, one of which is our community contacts, which we're now tracking. And we have hundreds and hundreds of community contacts all across this city that we are documenting to show not only our outreach, but to get out into this community and finally bond with them and show them that we are here to listen. And the information is coming back, and we are using it to inform exactly how we are policing.
All right. Well, thanks, James. And like I said, it looks we'll be voting. We're not going to be voting on it, so you'll have an opportunity to speak again at the next meeting. So who's next? And it looks like it's Mr. Miles.
Yes.
Good evening. Pleasure to meet Mr. Walsh tonight. I hope we'll be meeting before now, but it's a pleasure to meet you. And I don't count any of this to be your doing or anything like that, but I'm in agreement with Leah Tozer. I'm in agreement with some of the things that James Hodge is talking about. This particular meeting, I did not know, but I'm appreciative also of the council. Thank you, Bendo, that you will not be voting on this tonight. As the president of a civic, the North Park Civic Association, as a clergy member at Evangel Revival Community Church, nobody had any idea this was happening. I found out about this yesterday. I did know that there was about the crisis prevention team who was in talks with you. But to my understanding of the executive order, it said that a plan had to have public comment. And I'm glad that this is becoming that. But in the future, in full transparency, we've got to be very clear and we've got to get the message abroad. It's not a broad swath. It is one community group that you met with that I'm aware of from North Park. And people do want to meet and know who is the new commissioner. They have questions. I know you went to the West End Neighbors. I didn't even get your email yet. So that's what I want tonight. I would like to get your email address and we can continue this conversation, of course, further. Thank you.
Well, my email address is rjwalsh, W-A-L-S-H, @lbpd.com. You can also call the department anytime you want and we can have a conversation on the phone. I would like to point out that I've only been your commissioner for about 3 weeks. So there's not a tremendous amount of opportunity for me to go out into the community and meet with all the groups that I want. I have reached out to, Pastor Milton out in North Park. I've reached out to some of the residents in North Park. Myself and Miss Gaden, even before I was the commissioner of police, were out meeting people during snowstorms and helping out residents of the North Park community. You don't have somebody here who's sitting around trying to, not be engaged. This plan was extremely labor intensive to put together and to tailor. I've spent an inordinate amount of time doing that and dealing with other situations in the department. And I look forward to holding the conversations with you, Mr. Miles, and with anybody else who's interested in engaging and giving feedback.
I appreciate you. And that's why you have no blame. You just got here. This is brand new. This is for the city though, a plan that came out from the executive order in May. So from Ragona to De Palma, I have emailed Ragona, but then we all know that we have different situations now, things happen. So moving forward, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I also just want to point out that, this it's been really interesting to get all this feedback, and what keeps coming through in a lot of the comments is communication. And so, I'm going to try, we need to try harder to communicate with each other. And to that effect, Ronnie, I'd be glad to, be notified of when your meetings are.
I emailed you when you responded to me. I've emailed you. And so we have only had that one contact. You've never emailed me back, but I would love to have a communication with you as well.
Well, that was because you invited the 5 of us to meet with the civic, and the 5 of city council members are not allowed to go meet with the civic at one time, because then it becomes an open meeting.
I understand that, but I'm saying all you had to do was say I can't attend or send me a future date, or I had to ask all 5 of you. I can't just ask one of you to come to a meeting. So I do understand how policy works. I'm a former employee. I understand.
No, and to your point, I said I need to communicate more with you. So I'm really looking forward to hearing when your next meeting is and when we could all,
I publicized the meeting for last week, but I'll make sure I email you directly again. All 5 of you will get the email, but I just want to make that aware that you will all 5 get the email.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
In the effort of being responsible to the entirety of the Long Beach community, I did not realize that this was going to run as long as it is. And I have another commitment to another community organization that started at 7:30. I actually moved it from 7 to 7:30, and I'm late for that. I could try to take another question if you want, and I'm more than happy to be obviously on the next call that we have. Anybody out there who wants to contact me, it's rjwalsh, W-A-L-S-H, @lbpd.com. You can also call the police department, and I'm busy, but I'll find time for you. I will talk with you, and I'd love to hear your input. So with that, if it's okay, I'd like to log on to the other association meeting that I have.
Okay.
Yeah, currently we have no hands raised.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, so that works out. So
Great.
what we'll do is we'll take the feedback that we got here. We also know the body camera section is being updated. And what I'm gonna, I don't know if this is the appropriate point to do it, Dave, or if wait till you actually call it. But
Fine.
all right, I'm gonna make a motion to table this resolution. so we
Right.
can carry it over and incorporate the feedback and,
Okay, do I have a second?
Ladies first, go ahead, Liz.
I will second.
Okay, voting to table the item. Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel. I'm sorry, he's absent. Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
yes.
Okay, so item 1 has been tabled.
Okay, so
And John, we're gonna be tabling it and then we're gonna bring it up at the next city council meeting, correct?
So it'll come up at the city council meeting on Tuesday. So it'll be the opportunity for people to comment on any updates that were made or additional comments they may want to make. And so with
Okay.
that,
Make a motion to close the meeting.
Before we make a motion to close, I just want to mention one thing. I'm sure I would like to reach out, and if they're not here, thank the Deputy Commissioner Rich DePalma, who I imagine was doing a lot of work in the interim as well. So, just wanted to mention that.
And also Bill Dodge, who runs our COA meeting. But I would just like to take note that, again, this is not new. We have been talking about this for a while, publicly, and residents are going to have to take some responsibility to look at the city's website to see what's coming up. And if you have a question, email us.
Right.
etreston@longbeachny.gov. I have a phone number. I would be more than happy to call you back. This is all about communication. Don't listen to other people. Give us a call. Thank you.
all right.
Okay.
So with that, we'll see everyone on.
Motion to close, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. We didn't vote. I'm sorry. Yes, Liz seconded it. I'm sorry.
No, that was the motion to table. So I need a motion to close the meeting.
Oh,
I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
Thank you. Second?
Second. I'll second it.
Okay. Voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
yes. Okay. And
Okay.
now we can do the finale. So,
Yes.
so thanks for joining, and we'll talk to you again on Tuesday.
There's a working meeting.
That's true. There is a working meeting tomorrow night. So if you want to join us for that,
Check the YouTube channel.
you can
Thank you.
join us for that.
See you tomorrow.
Have a great night, everyone.
All